You're watching Roll for Crit's Kickstarter preview for Clash of the Ardennes. This game is based on the Battle of the Bulge from World War II. It's a historical setting, a strategic game in which two players are competing to conquer 3 roads before their opponent can in this Belgian city.
Yes, if you've ever visited a European city or you live in one, you may notice that some of them have very narrow roads, so you can't fit too many troops on them. So the goal of this game is to get 3 roads where you have troops at the end, and you have conquered that road. You're trying to do as little troops as possible so you can sort of divert them to other roads to either capture more roads or stop your opponents from gaining those roads themselves. Now, a lot of this is sort of like a rock, paper, scissors. You've got sort of 3 major kinds of units. You got tank mines, tanks, and infantry. Tank mines beat tanks beat infantry, and infantry beat mines because they can dig them out. Now, the infantry also come with some ranks, so there's a bit more there. So if infantry come against each other, they actually beat each other on ranks, being like higher rank beats lower rank. So you can tell by the number of helmets they have. You can see here, like this one has 0, this one has 1, and that one has 2. So there's also a bit more of a stalemate rules too, because stalemates will take each other out, but with the infantry you got something a little bit more special there. The way you actually conquer these roads is on your turn you have 4 action points to spend. Now you can spend them in the following ways. You can spend 1 to place any unit you have onto the board that has to be touching the back line. So either start here or build up a line. You can spend 2 to take the farthest unit and move it up to the front. You can also spend 2 to take the farthest unit and retreat it, which may be required in order to make sure you have the winning fight combination. But you can spend 3 if you're forced to, if your unit is blocked. It's the same thing as the previous retreat, but it pretty much means your opponent has it sort of tangled up, so you have to spend that extra action to remove it back to your reserve.
Now you may have noticed that on the board, in addition to the player's gray and green pieces, there are also these red pieces. This one also is gray. Each player has their own set. These are special units that are similar to the other ones. They're based on those, most of them at least, but they have special abilities with stronger power. So for instance, this tank, not only can it destroy things in this road right here, it also destroys things over to its left. Depending on what it can see, if there are weak infantry members in its way. Up here you have the general. He's like an infantry member, but really strong and clearly takes up a lot of space, so you can use him to quickly get to the end of something, and he's got 2 helmets, so he's a little more advanced. Then you have the mortar. Now this one is going to be a stretch goal, I believe, for the Kickstarter, so you'll see if we reach that, but the mortar hits units 2 roads away to its left instead of directly in front of it. Finally, there is the spy. The spy is extremely valuable. They're very small, same size as a mine, so they're not going to get you much ground, but they beat any unit except for the enemy's spy. So you really have to be careful and smart about when you play those. You can also only have 1 special unit of yours out on the field at a time. Yeah. So that would be illegal right there. So you really have to be careful, and if one of those gets locked in, that like blocked by an opponent, that's bad.
The one other thing you have to be careful of is if you do capture a road, that road's locked in means it can't be messed around with. That can be particularly important with A, you put too many units there so you don't have much to conquer other roads, or as you mentioned, the special units. If for whatever reason I used those 2 to lock up, I no longer can play any more red units because he's locked in that row.
Yeah, you really have to be careful with that. Like I said, it's a highly strategic game. It definitely harkens back to like chess, checkers, those kinds of old school, sort of more abstract games.
I want to point out that I believe it's cards for the lower one. They sent us the nice wooden.
This is the fancy wooden version, which even more so, I think, makes you think of like finding in an old antique shop or something like your grandpa's attic, like this old school kind of a game.
We're not used to it. We're used to like plastic and metal and that cheap cardboard mass produced.
Yeah, so it's really cool. It's got a really nice look to it. But like you said, there is that card version if maybe this isn't your thing necessarily. And yeah, it is really strategic, and you really have to be careful, and a lot of the game is going back and forth and thinking really hard on your turn. What do you want to do? How are these units going to be placed? How is it going to work? What's the best option? And what are you willing to sacrifice in order to get to where you need to go?
Sometimes it could be advantageous. For example, like Jonathan has a lot of units here, but if I place a certain unit that forces him to have to think about his configuration, maybe spend more action points than he'd want to conquer that road.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot about that. When do you want to just block someone, even though maybe it doesn't directly help you per se? So the game ends when someone has conquered 3 roads. There can definitely be a fair amount of stalemates, as we said, and ties. So it could go on. I think they have suggested playing time for an hour, which I think is probably could be about right, depending on how familiar you are with the game or how cutthroat you are and how aggressive you are in getting to the other side. So check it out. It's called Clash of the Ardennes. I think that if you like those kinds of games, like we said, if you like the look of this, you like kind of just an old school Stratego-esque maybe kind of a game with a historical theme, that this is one taking a look at. Worth taking a look at. That's the word I forgot. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Let us know what you think of it, how you feel about it. Which version do you like, the wooden one or the cards? And how do you feel about the World War II? You know, what's your historical background? Fill us in. Until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this has been Roll for Crit.
Here's an idea. Support our Patreon or like and subscribe to this channel for more.
Fagulu Miktawa audio expansion Wakana Cthulhu awesome.